Number 6, Ashton Jeanty to Vegas. Pete Carroll loves a good run game. Now, I thought that you liked the Giants in the defense, so I'm going to set myself up. Coach, do you like could the Raiders make some noise by adding Jeanty to Gino's team?
Yeah.
Oh, gee whiz. This is what you like, running the ball.
I do, and they're 32nd in running the ball.
Yeah.
Last year, they were 32nd in running the ball, so I get that. There's a lot of stuff to like about Ashton Jeanty, and he's explosive. I don't know if he's Saquon Barkley explosive. He doesn't really catch the ball, at the level that you'd like for a running back of his style. And then let's just look at what Pete Carroll's done historically. So if we can pull this up, Pete, this is the Jets, this is the Patriots, and this is his time in Seattle. So when he had the 12th pick, he took Aaron Glenn, and then you go right on down the line, and typically for him, it's either going to be offensive linemen or cornerbacks. Now, I could see this being more of a Will Johnson type pick. You go get a cornerback, you've got Brady there, you got the Michigan connection, that's a possibility. But usually they're going either big or cover. He's going big or cover guys. That doesn't mean that you couldn't, bring an exciting player like this. Just his track record is not to do this over time.
Contenders?
Okay, true.
I'm looking at the bar.
Yeah,
Contenders for what?
The playoffs.
Okay, the
Contenders
playoffs.
to
Okay,
make the playoffs.
usually when I think contender for the Super Bowl.
Well, when you're in the playoffs,
and
you contend.
in the tournament,
they would be a contender for the playoffs at
which makes them a
best.
contender.
No, they would. I think they still be the third best team in that division. I'm not putting them against. I'm not putting them ahead of the Chargers. I'm not putting them ahead of the
What
Chargers
have the Chargers
if they get
ever
Jeanty.
proven? What if the Chargers
They're a pretty
win
good
big
team,
game
and they got a
challenge?
really good coach. I get it that Pete Carroll's a great coach too, but I
who
would
beats
not be
Pete
putting
Carroll
them
a
ahead
lot?
of the Chargers.
I'm sorry, you know who beats Jim Harbaugh a lot? Pete Carroll in college and in the pros. In conference championship games, at USC Stanford. All right, here's the deal.
Contender?
Here's the deal. And
Let's
I hate
change the wording. Wording is important. Are the Raiders better? I like the way you said it. Make some noise, because that's vague.
Make some noise.
Here's
That's all
the
they
argument.
do. Make a little noise.
Here's the argument for it.
Make
okay?
some noise.
The argument is the Raiders last year had, I'll call it, the 30th best coach. Last year had, call it, the 30th best quarterback, and you just told me last year had the 32nd best running game. If all of a sudden they go from 30th best coach to call it 10th, from 30th best quarterback to call it 11th, Brew, I'll make you happy because he can't call Gino top 10, and from 32nd best running game to call it 10th, which you would anticipate that would happen, that immediately makes them a good team. The things they were the worst in the league at, they're good at. And Joel Klatt, I thought, made an interesting point about Jeanty's receiving numbers, which is he said that wasn't because a lack of ability, it's because Boise wanted him to win the Heisman and thought the only way to win the Heisman was for him to break Barry Sanders' single-season rushing record, and because of that, they just handed the ball off instead of throwing.
No, I get that, but they did throw the ball, right? And he was on the field when they threw the ball.
Okay, yes.
So typically, if he's your best, most explosive player, and you're throwing the ball, and there's nobody open, you're like, oh, let me throw it to that guy who can now go 60 yards if I throw it to him on a little check down. But that didn't quite happen.
Mock draft 1.0 and 2.0 has.
Okay, well, let's just talk about this. Man, things are getting messy. I don't know if it's because people are starting to feel like the summer, the weather, getting a little stir crazy, talking about the same stuff again and again in football, and everyone's trying so hard to try to find things to talk about. But man, just I'd love to know your guys' experience with just consuming NFL content during the off season, because it's an experience. It's an experience. Right. Okay. So to be clear, I guess they're saying contenders for the playoffs, and the answer is obviously yes. And I do very much agree with what Nick is saying, and it's very much my logic and the idea of, like, you improved your quarterback, you improved your coach, you improved your coordinator, like you're improving everything. So to think that you're not going to now be a better team, I just, like, it doesn't, like of course you will. Of course you're going to be a better team. And I totally disagree with Mangini's logic, because he's like, well, let's look what Pete Carroll has done historically. And it's just like, dude, you're going to talk about what he did when he was with the New York Jets? Like, what are we even saying here? This is what he did in 1994, 2010. Like, I just like, okay, and then 2022, 2023, like, again, like, it's just different. And so, like, I'm just not going to use this. This means nothing to me. I'm not saying that he's not going to do it, because you can make the argument that they do want to draft someone, for the O-line or something. But, like, it's not based off of this. So, like, that's just, no, I'm sorry. This is not actually real data, or this doesn't tell us anything. Like, the players drafted in top 12 under Pete Carroll, like, I'm sorry. That just, what you did in 1994 means nothing to me. Absolutely, positively nothing to me. And I'm sorry, I don't remember what the other options were in 1994, in 2010. I don't even remember what was available in 2022. Okay, I'm sorry. So, like, it's just kind of absurd to even remotely use this as a frame of reference. And who says that those were necessarily the right draft picks? You have to look back at the draft. It's always easier to kind of look back at the draft and see where, see how great players became, or how bad players became. And it's like, oh, you should have picked this. And it's like, well, yeah, if it was that easy, then everyone would do it. But and I don't know if this decision is 100% coming down to Pete Carroll. I think my assumption is that Pete Carroll at this point probably has a more collaborative relationship with the decision making than he's had potentially in years past, especially when he was in his full reign of power with the Seattle Seahawks. My guess is that it's not to say that he doesn't have power, because I believe Pete Carroll is going to have a tremendous amount of power, but I just think that it's like, I don't know if he has like the same level of power of like an Andy Reid, of a Sean McVay, of that type of situation right now. So I just think it's going to be a little bit more collaborative. So that's why I also like looking strictly at Pete Carroll's picks that he's made in the past only means so much to me. But like, oh man, the one thing that I wish I said, I wanted to say this at the top of the clip, like, because I've already said all I could say about the Raiders and how good I believe that they'll be and how they're going to improve. But like, just like, y'all do gotta take a second, Raiders fans. Like, for a long time, like, nobody was really talking about the Raiders. Nobody really cared. I remember one of my first handful of Raiders videos that I made on this channel, like, so many of the fans were like, dude, thank you so much for making videos. Like, no one ever talks about the Raiders, etc., etc. And then throughout the season, I was like trying to find Raiders content, and like, I couldn't. I remember it was like Marcus Spears. He talked for like 15 seconds, and he was wearing like some, old school football helmet. And I was like, this is the best I could do. Like, this is all I could find. Like, this is what I need to do as a jumping off point to talk about the Raiders. Like, like, this is crazy. And a lot of Raiders fans like totally understood it. And so like, now you just got casual Las Vegas Raiders content being like, will they be contenders and this or that? And it's, it's April. Like, that is a massive victory. Like, there is energy behind this team. People want to talk about this team. They got the players. They got the coaches. If they just nail the draft, people will be talking about the Raiders all season long. That's a great place to be in, especially when you've been, you gotta call it like it is. You've been nothing. You've been not a team that is like, at the end of the day, truly worth talking about, because at the end of the day, you want to talk about the teams that like either are fascinating to unpack, like how Caleb Williams and the Chicago Bears team were, because they were supposed to be amazing and they weren't. So it was like, you got to talk about that. You got to talk about the train wreck, and then also the teams that like actually have a legitimate chance to win it all. The Baltimore Ravens, the Kansas City Chiefs, the Philadelphia Eagles. Like, that's what you want to talk about. And then you have the Raiders, where no one was expecting them to do much of anything. They didn't do much of anything. So, like, no one's going to talk about them. No one talked about the Jacksonville Jaguars. Nobody talked about the Carolina Panthers. Nobody talked about the Las Vegas Raiders. Gosh, if we can get some real expectations here, and they can just meet some of those expectations here, We can actually start to have real conversation about the Raiders. We can actually do deep dives. We can actually unpack their games in a more in-depth way. And I'm all for it. So please, Pete Carroll and company, Tom Brady and everyone else involved, just bring it home, man. Just bring it home so we can have some fun this season. Because again, this division is going to be like, that's what I keep talking about in all my videos, no matter if I'm talking about the Chargers or the Broncos or whatever. Like, God, these games are going to matter, and that's just so fun. Watching the Raiders take on the Chiefs in a game that actually matters, where it's like if the Raiders win this game, you know, they're now contending for either the division or the wild card spot. Like, it just matters, and like, that's all you want. That's all you really want as a fan, is to watch games that just matter, that actually have an impact on tomorrow, rather than just being like, yeah, it was a game, we watched it, whatever. Things got to matter, and the Raiders are in a position to make, that should be the question. You know, with Jeanty, will the Raiders matter? And the answer is yes. But those are just my thoughts. I'd absolutely love to hear yours. What do you guys all think about the Las Vegas Raiders? Do you think they'd be contenders with Jeanty? If not, who else do you think that they should draft? Let me know in the comments below. I read every single comment, so whether you agree with me or disagree with me, either way, let's get in some discussions, let's get in some fights, but ultimately, let's just have some fun. And please do consider subscribing. We're building an amazing community here, and I'd absolutely love to see you part of it. I want to build something that we all genuinely feel connected to, something that we're really excited to be part of. I think we're on our way to doing it. And please don't forget to give this video a thumbs up, as it really does help the visibility and the algorithm. Thank you so much. See you next time.